My name is David Woodall with the United Church of Canada in the Emsdale Pastoral Charge. And I was thinking, wouldn't it be nice if we could fashion our lives so that the very best of humanity could come forward in the days and the weeks and the months and the years that lie ahead? Our 24-hour-a-day news cycles often highlight the worst of humanity: divisions, religious persecution, women and children exploited for sexual or religious reasons, neighbors no longer able to compromise, extreme political divisions. Wouldn't it be nice if we could fashion our lives so that the very best of humanity could come forward in the days and the weeks and the months and the years that lie ahead? This is my hope. And it's a spiritual hope, because I profoundly believe that God, in the many manifestations of spirituality around the world, in the amazing and diverse spellings of that name, embedded that hope within each one of us. Life is not about survival. Life is about being the best we can be. Be the person God created you to be. Life is about creating a community of inclusion where everyone is treated with justice and respect. Let's be the community God created us to be. In one of our traditional services are found this line: "We will so fashion our lives so that others will come to know this Creator who has given us life." And fashioning our lives is something each one of us does every day. It's so common that I think we really have fun designing who we are, creating that unique person inside of us who is crying to come out, claiming the strengths God has given us, developing new talents, growing through new experiences, fashioning our lives. We might wear unique clothes. Now, I have recently decided to wear colorful socks in my sandals as a way to show nonconformity with the accepted way of wearing sandals. What a radical I am. Think about the amount of time you spend in front of the mirror every morning, over the anguish you experience selecting the right clothes for the day. We do have a lot of fun designing our lives. The invitation of God is to fashion our lives in whole and healthy ways. And the message of Christ is that we really can fashion lives that are incredibly deep and meaningful. I look back on my own life and I discover that I've taken bits and pieces of my personality and my approach to life from here and here and here, and in doing so, created some of the person that I am today. Significant people have affected me in significant ways. Parts of them still live on in who I am. God gives us the gift of a wonderfully interconnected world in which to live. It is full of fascinating people and intriguing learnings. Within this world, God invites us to experience, live, and then fashion our lives in our living in order to become the best we can be. The life we live today is the one which, by and large, we have fashioned for ourselves. In our time, we've experienced laughter and tears, smiles and moments when we've been devastated. There are some things that come along over which we have no control. We've discovered in those times the wisdom to persevere through them and how to take only one step at a time until we can find the path again. We can be anxious over things that are out of our control. We do our best to be at peace and live with them in the most positive way possible. God grant me the strength to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. We make choices and decisions along the way in life. Those choices and decisions to a large extent create the lives we live today. A visitor who was being shown around New York commented on the crowds and the noise in the subway. His host said, "At the next station, we will change to an express train and that will save us 2 minutes." Said the bewildered visitor, "And what shall we do with those 2 minutes?" What shall we do with those 2 minutes? In some ways, the answer to that question talks about our lives. If we were given a free 2 minutes or 2 hours or 2 days, what would we do with it? The answer to that question talks about the lives we fashioned for ourselves. We all try to make the best use of our time so that we can enjoy life more. We have all sorts of labor-saving devices that make our lives simpler. Unfortunately, they don't seem to give us more leisure time or more personal relationship time or more holidays. Too often today it feels like we're simply busier. We meet each other, and we barely pause, panting from the schedule of our lives. The work week is much longer than the 35 or 40 hours we were once told about. The pace and demand quickens. Retirement isn't any quieter. Our phones don't leave us alone. I'm usually 3 or 4 days behind in responding to emails. And when I do respond, they think it's a miracle. Turns out they thought I was dead. I'm not sure what I thought about that. We fashion our lives. We make them what they are. Said the bewildered visitor to his host. And what shall we do with those 2 minutes? I think about our First Nations neighbors and how we're being called on to fashion a new and respectful relationship. It will take longer than 2 minutes or 2 days or 2 months or 2 years to accomplish this. This new relationship we forge together will be composed of thousands of small decisions and tiny steps taken over the years ahead. Those small decisions we made along the way in life projected us in a certain direction. Cries of anguish are heard from those who have reached the bottom, who are at their wits' end about life, who look back on their lives and say, if only I'd done this or made that decision or gone to that place or not gone to that place, things would all be different. Sounds of laughter are heard from people who have found great fulfillment in life. They trace their present situation back to some small decisions they made along the way. The small decisions we make along the way project our lives and our relationships in certain directions. Gordon Sinclair, a young missionary, arrived in India and was confronted by the overwhelming degradation and poverty of Calcutta. He said there can be no God, for God would not permit this. He turned around and went home and would have nothing to do with God for the rest of his life. A young woman, a nun, arrived in India at about the same time and was confronted by the overwhelming degradation and poverty of Calcutta. She said, there's so much need, Lord. Where do you want me to start? We know this young nun as Mother Teresa. We fashion our lives, and then we live out the results of the decisions that we make. Sometimes it reminds me of Abbott and Costello. They're in some situation or another, and invariably Abbott turns to Costello, or maybe it was the other way around, and says, as we probably have said ourselves at one point in time about our own lives. They said, it's a fine mess you've got us into this time. Well, some of our lives are a fine mess, and some of our lives are not even fine. They're just a plain mess. Life is claiming one small decision at a time. Ezekiel talks about fat sheep pushing the weak and young sheep and sick sheep aside. And the fat sheep get to the front of the line, but when they get to the front of the line, they find out the front is not worth getting to. What's the phrase from our faith? The first shall be last, and the last shall be first. There was a commercial on TV a while back in the early days of internet access about someone getting internet access. Unfortunately, the speed at which they received the internet was significantly reduced because all of their neighbors had the same wonderful deal. So this neighbor decided, let me buy all of my neighbors out. I'll buy all of their properties. And so they did. The decision was made to buy all of the neighbors' homes. There were no more neighbors, and they finally got incredibly fast internet access. And the final scene of the commercial showed the son throwing the football to no one because, of course, there were no neighbors. And the daughter waited on one end of the teeter-totter for the friend that never came. Sometimes the front of the line isn't worth getting to. The fashioning of our lives has something to do with how we value others. We are invited to be inclusive, peace-loving, and gentle. We are invited to speak truthfully, to live with integrity, to live justly, and to walk humbly with God. How did Jesus put it? I was hungry and you fed me, thirsty and gave me a drink. I was a stranger and you received me in your homes, naked and you clothed me. I was sick and you took care of me, and I was in prison and you visited me. Or Paul said, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if there's anything excellent or worthy, think about these things. Whatever we let our minds dwell on, we become. We fashion our lives. Others will be inspired by us. They will learn about faith. They will learn about life through the ways that we live and the words that we share. If a person lives with criticism, she learns to condemn. If a person lives with hostility, he learns to fight. If a person lives with ridicule, she learns to be shy. If a person lives with tolerance, he learns to be patient. If a person lives with encouragement, she learns self-confidence. If a person lives with praise, he learns to appreciate. If a person lives with fairness, she learns justice. If a person lives with approval, he learns to like himself. If a person lives with security, she learns to have faith. If a person lives with acceptance and friendship, both he and she learn to find love in the world. Grow healthy lives. Grow a healthy society. Grow in the grace of God, and God bless each one of us, now and always. Amen.